I have had the Chase Sapphire Reserve for a little over 10 years, so I would say I'm pretty well equipped to give a good, honest review of the card. I have a lot of thoughts to get through in this video, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you my 10-year honest review and whether or not I will be keeping the card, especially given some of the changes and the taking away of benefits that have been implemented by Chase recently. I'll go over why I decided to get the card to begin with, how I use the earnings and benefits, and some of the issues and challenges I came across with the card. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so we're rewinding to 10 plus years ago right now. I was fresh out of college, I had just gotten married, and I had just received my first big girl corporate job on Wall Street in New York City. I knew I wanted to travel a ton, especially given that I had just moved to New York and I had started making money. So I did some research on which travel credit card I should get. And that's when I came across the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Especially at the time, the Reserve was like the OG travel credit card. It was the shiny thing to have. If you traveled, you needed the credit card. If you had the credit card, you were well traveled. I was a bit skeptical at first because of the $550 annual fee, but I came to terms with it because I realized how many credits they give you and a lot of the benefits that come along with it, as well as the sign-up bonus, which I will get into now. Sign-up bonus. First things first, the sign-up bonus back when I signed up was around 60,000 points when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months of account opening. And I think this still holds true today. This equated to around $750 at the time, and it was just awesome. My husband and I earned these points, and we got tickets to Thailand, and we were off. In terms of earnings with the card, and I will give you my opinion on each one, you get 10x on hotels and car rentals booked through the Chase Travel portal, 10x on Lyft, which when I was living and working in the New York City area, this wasn't even a thing. It wasn't an earner. I think Chase just added this benefit a few years ago. So when I was out living in the city, working in the city, this would have been great. But now I live in the suburbs and I barely ever use rideshare services unless I'm traveling abroad somewhere to a city. So this earner is pretty useless to me now. You get 10x on Peloton, which I did use the Peloton app for a few months a couple years ago. But then now I primarily go to a boxing gym or I've been doing virtual personal training. So again, not really applicable to me. You get 10x on Chase Dining, which I also really haven't used this, so useless for me. 5x on flights and 3x on dining and 3x on all other travel related expenses that you book outside the Chase portal. This is where I have probably racked up the most points over the last 10 years, along with booking some travel through the portal. So majority of my travel was usually booked with Chase points either through the portal or through the transfer partners. And yes, I am aware that oftentimes booking hotels and flights on the Chase website through the portal is not the best bang for your buck. I've talked about that on this channel a lot too if you watch my other videos, but there were times where I wanted to stay at some nice hotels that weren't transfer partners, like Four Seasons, for example. And instead of using my own money out of my own pocket, I would just use the travel portal to book these hotels. So in my book, that's still a win because I'm saving my actual hard-earned money. Lastly, you get 1x on everything else that you spend money on every other dollar you spend. So this also helped in accumulating points for me. If you're getting any value at all from this video, it would really mean a lot to me if you went ahead and hit that red subscribe button. This way you'll be notified anytime I upload similar videos. Credits and benefits. These are my thoughts on the things that I really cared about / currently care about that made me want to get the card to begin with and keep it for all these years. The first benefit that really caught my eye with the card was that Chase gives you an annual $300 credit towards travel. So that already knocks down your annual $500.50 fee down by $300. And that's pretty significant. So even today, I think that's a great benefit. I also knew I wanted to sign up for Global Entry, which is $100 for one application. And the Chase Sapphire Reserve had me covered with $100 credit towards Global Entry, Nexus, pre-check fees. So again, I did not have to pay out of pocket to get Global Entry. As of October 1st, 2024, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection is increasing prices for Global Entry applicants from $100 to $120. So I wonder if the Reserve will also increase its credit that it gives you for the fee, so that this way the entire cost will still be covered. That is definitely something to look out for and keep in mind if you're thinking of getting this credit card and you also wanted to apply for Global Entry and you were hoping that the credit would cover that cost. The other benefit that I really cared about with the Reserve was airport lounge access, particularly for the Priority Pass lounges. And I do have to say that since COVID, Priority Pass did a whole rehaul where they cut out a ton of lounges, and it was actually pretty difficult to find lounges to go to, especially in the US. It felt like it was pretty useless to have Priority Pass, and even if you did find a lounge, it was just really hard to get into because they were at max capacity. And mind you, over the last few years, this is when travel just started exploding because everyone was coming out of their homes, going back into travel. So the airports were just wild. Luggage was being lost. It was an animal house completely. A lot of airport lounges that had previously accepted Priority Pass members were now turning people away, declining them access, and this was not reflected in the Priority Pass app, so that was really frustrating. If you go through Reddit forums about this topic, you will get a ton of horror stories. From my personal experience, the one experience that I had that was really frustrating was in Singapore back in November of 2022 when we got denied from 3 airport lounges at the Singapore airport because they either no longer accepted Priority Pass members or they were at capacity. It's also frustrating how there aren't as many Priority Pass lounges or any lounges in LAX, a lot in DFW, Atlanta, so this definitely sucks. Other than those few instances, I haven't had really any other bad experiences with getting access into Priority Pass lounges, especially while being abroad. And a lot of the lounges abroad are actually really nice and huge. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to that Singapore experience because that time period was just complete wildness for traveling. I could do an entire other video on Priority Pass and Priority Pass lounges, but let me know in the comments below if you want me to talk more about that. So anyway, this one was a huge perk for me. But now most of the other premium top travel credit cards also give you this perk. So it's definitely not something that is exclusive to the Chase Sapphire Reserve anymore. Now where the Chase Sapphire Reserve truly shines is with its transfer travel partners. And that's another reason why I kept this card all these years. Some of the major and important transfer partners for me have been JetBlue. I fly them a lot when I'm going to Boston. United Airlines. I use United so much when going to Asia a few times over the past few years, including Singapore, South Korea, and Japan. Southwest Airlines for more domestic flights. They are also partnered with Air France, KLM, Flying Blue, and once a month Chase offers a promotion where if you transfer your points to Flying Blue, your points will be worth like 50% more, so that's really awesome. And then they are also partnered with some other major airlines like Air Canada, Iberia, British Airways, Emirates, Singapore, and Virgins. You pretty much have access to the entire world. And then for the hotel partners, Hyatt is the big hitter here. You get the most bang for your buck when you transfer your Chase points over to Hyatt to book hotel rooms. So this has been a huge perk. And then you have other benefits like no foreign transaction fees and no blackout dates. This was some of the stuff that was very heavily travel related and the stuff that I cared the most about even currently. And then you have all these other benefits which are also great. We had baggage delay in Korea and Chase took care of it. I never had to worry about being covered with a rental car. I honestly haven't had to use a lot of these, fortunately, but luckily I do know that if I had to, I know that they're there. Now for some of the challenges or areas of opportunity that I think the Chase Sapphire Reserve has. 1. The biggest gripe that I have is that a couple years ago, back in 2022, I was supposed to take a trip to London. We boarded the flight, but then it kept getting delayed. It was supposed to be a red eye, so now it's the middle of the night, and then the pilot goes, okay, we're gonna take off. We're in the air for about 45 minutes and then he goes, due to a mechanical issue, this flight will not be going to London. We are making an emergency landing and this flight is canceled. Wonderful. Long story short, I never made it to London because I would have to run through hoops to get there and I would have been traveling for the next 24 hours. And again, this is when travel was just wild. So getting on flights, dealing with lost baggage and all that crap, I just didn't want to deal with it. I was so tired and frustrated as it was. So I relied on Chase to help me get back some of my money and points that I had spent on this flight and on the hotels in London. And it wasn't my fault because the airline canceled the flight, and the amount of hours that I spent on the phone with Chase was just ridiculous. In the end, Chase did not refund me a good chunk of points that I had spent on the trip. I felt like they had mostly just left it up to the airline and the hotel to decide what they wanted to do, and they weren't really there to be proactive, and I didn't feel like they were advocating for me or anything like that, or even just giving me the points on their behalf. And there was even one point where I was like, Chase, what is the point of you? Like, you're just a useless middleman that's providing no value to me right now. I feel like I'm the one fighting with these people. Like, help me out. Whatever. I even reached out to them a few months down the line to kind of re-spark the conversation and be like, you know, can you give me some more points back or whatever? And they were like, yeah, we'll look into it and we'll try to get you some more points. Never did. Not very proactive at all unless I was reaching out to them constantly. And who has the time for that? It was just a complete headache. So from that experience, I would say that they are a bit lacking in their customer service. I also had another incident similar to this, but it was more on a domestic scale. But regardless, I ended up with a loss, and it felt like they did not care. That said, 2 times in the last 10 years isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things. I just wish that they had been a little bit more proactive and customer centric when handling the issue. The other gripe I have with the credit card is that it doesn't give you points on, or it doesn't give you extra points on daily things like groceries and gas, streaming services. Groceries are so expensive these days, and I feel like I'm spending so much money on them all the time. I feel like I'm grocery shopping every day. So being able to get some extra points on that would have been nice. And lastly, there is a big benefit that the Reserve was offering that is now being taken away. As of July 1st, 2024, the Chase Sapphire Reserve will be taking away Priority Pass restaurant privileges that provides a dining credit at participating airport restaurants around the world. Now, this is huge because currently you can go to some of these participating airport restaurants and get a meal for like $28, and you just use the credit that the card gives you, that Priority Pass gives you. So you're not paying money out of your pocket. You can get a pretty decent meal for 28 bucks. And if you're traveling a lot, this would save you a ton of money at the point of when you're taking off and when you're landing. But as of July 1st, they're taking this perk away. My conclusions. Given all that I have been through with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, will I be keeping it or will I be replacing it as one of my main primary travel-centric credit cards? To be honest, for now, I will be keeping it, and here's why. I've had quite the run with the Reserve, from being able to travel to really cool places all around the world, staying in beautiful luxury hotels for a fraction of the cost, and flying in luxury to some of these countries for close to nothing. It has been great, and I've only been able to do this because of the points. I still have a ton of Chase points, and in my opinion, Chase points do really give you some of the best bang for your buck and are the best in the market. I do have some other travel plans for this year, so I will hopefully use up some of my points on those travel plans, especially with the airline transfer partners and with Hyatt being a top-notch partner. It's kind of hard to beat. If you are looking to get into the credit card game, or if you're thinking about getting the Chase Sapphire Reserve, would I recommend it? I'd say start off with the Chase Sapphire Preferred first. In my opinion, that the Chase Sapphire Preferred is also a top-notch travel credit card with a lot of the same perks and a lot of awesome benefits and earnings, and it only has a $95 annual fee versus the $550 annual fee for the Reserve. Try it out and see how you like it. Get familiar with the Chase ecosystem. And then at that point, if you feel like you want to upgrade, then you can go for the Reserve. I might be switching up my primary travel credit card over to the Capital One Venture X, which is another awesome credit card. So I'm going to see how far that takes me in terms of earnings and how I do with the transfer partners so that I can get a better idea of it and better compare it to the Reserve. At that point, I might downgrade back down to the Preferred. So that is my potential plan for over the next few months. We'll see how it goes. If you're interested in learning more about the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Capital One Venture X, or even how to maximize your points from these cards to get travel for free, then I highly recommend you check this video out next, where I go over these cards in detail and how to best use them and get the most bang for your buck. I'll catch you in the next video.